Hello and welcome to my little demo of another thing that I do for the Digital Theological Library. What it is pretty much is I get to look up things, and sometimes it involves troubleshooting, accessibility and discoverability, um, correcting, making sure that the best records, the best metadata is available for people looking for things. And I get the privilege of being able to activate titles according to my own interests, as long as they're broadly conceived of theological interest, to the collection. One of the reasons that I took this internship is because I'm personally interested in theology, and I would be interested in adding. And I thought it would be really fun to be adding things, to be able to add things to the library that are related to my interests. So what I do in this case is we have a big collection called Free to Read. Um, It is from the Internet Archive, and if you look in here, you can see that look at this, there are almost 2 million titles that are available in this Internet Archive here. It's pretty fantastic that there are so many things available, but you'll notice that all the things that are shown here are the selected titles that are deemed to be relevant to our digital theological library. So I'm going to go ahead and unclick this My Selected Titles filter here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for things that are broadly theologically related, uh, of interest to myself and everything, and just see if they're in the collection already. And if not, I get to be able to activate them and make sure that the records associated with them are the best that they can be. So let me just give you an example. So say I decide, like, it's theology, right? So I would imagine that the early church fathers from early Christianity would be useful to have in the collection. So I'm thinking, what about St. Basil, one of the Cappadocians, a big theologian from the 4th century? So if I search for St. Basil as a term, you can see that things come up that are, in fact, in the collection already. So this is selected, for instance, the Treatise on Baptism. And here is this French book um, about St. Basil the Great, and it is selected too. But look down here. What about the influence of Plato on St. Basil? I think this could be very useful for someone studying theology. And this is a title about Basil the Great in Italian, as you can see. And then here are his selected works in Latin, apparently, volumes 1 to 5. A lot of these things are not selected, right? As you can see. So if I want to go through and find things, oh, and I just wanted to share something. I had been searching for Basil the Great earlier, and one of the fun things about this that happens in this daily type of activity that I get to do for the detail is you find really cool things. Like, I was so excited earlier when I found this one, because as I followed it through to the website, this is our workflow for figuring out if we want to add it to the collection. I can see that it is about Saint Basil. Now, it's a very old book, and it's in Latin. It's from 1547, and if you look at the metadata for it, um, which thing you do by clicking on this OCLC number, it'll take me again to the OCLC record that's connected with it. I was amazed to see that this was actually printed by one of the earliest prominent female printers that had her own business. In 1547, there was a woman there printing books. I thought that was really cool. Her name was Charlotte Guillard, and I found that and I was very excited. So I definitely think that this should be added to our collection. Um, so what I'm going to do is make sure that all the information from this book that I can see on the website matches the information in the metadata on the record associated with it, the OCLC record associated with it. And if it matches, then I can go ahead and select it and leave it as B. if the information doesn't match, then it's my job to find an OCLC record, a WorldCat record that matches it better, and change and override the OCLC number and make sure that this is like a discoverability and discoverability issue to make sure that the metadata matches what is in the file. Sometimes you get the odd time where things will not be quite as you think they should be, because the work in question that you actually get to, the the digitized book, is a little different. Like in this case, it's the same edition. You can see that it's, you know, printed in 1547 by Carole Guillard, which is apparently uh, the name for Charlotte Guillard in like Latin or whatever. So let's see here. 1547, that looks right. All this looks right. 1547. And this is all accurate. The publisher is accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and select this title. There's nothing I need to change. I can go ahead and select it, and wow, there I go. By this simple action, I've added it to our collection. And I could do the same thing for all the other things with St. Basil. Like the influence of Plato on St. Basil, is that relevant to a theological collection? I would believe absolutely it is. So let me just go to the website and see what the actual book looks like. Always have to go to the front page here. This is a dissertation from 1904. Wow. And it looks like is it handwritten? Wow, this is fascinating. So yeah, it's a dissertation. It would be a little bit hard to read, but it's there. Wow, this is pretty neat. So it's from 1904, Baltimore. Let me just double check that the OCLC record is correct. Now, for some reason it's saying 1906 here. And if I'm clicking through here, sorry, to see the WorldCat record associated with this book, I'm going to double triple check here. It's loading now. Again, it's saying thesis dissertation 1906. I'm not sure why that is, so I'm going to go ahead and poke through here some more. Am I not perhaps seeing this properly? That this is 1904. Could it be that it was published in 1906 even though the dissertation was from 1904? I have to do a little bit of sleuthing before I'm actually sure that I want to be adding it with this kind of metadata. Because I see here, to me, it really looks like it says 1904. So what I'm going to try and do is just double, triple check here that there are not other formats that match this better. So view all formats and editions. All the years here seem to be 1906. I don't see anything. I don't see anything with 1904. So I'm trying to debate if it's appropriate to be adding it. It might be that this was made public. It looks to me like a manuscript, so it's really strange. Sometimes I don't know if I should like just hold off on adding things and consult with the director of the library, or if it's really that important, or if I can make a kind of a judgment call of my own. All of them say 1906, even though this technically says 1904. And it is a manuscript, it looks like, too. So, of a dissertation. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Yeah, it's always the same author, but it's always the year. Oh, whoops, excuse me. It's always the year. And they'll say print book. Thesis dissertation seems more accurate. Let's see what our record was. Return to item. Let's see what our record was. It's thesis dissertation, English 1906. There's no other option, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just making a judgment call here. I'm going to opt to select the title, and I'm not going to change any. There's really nothing I could change in the metadata. This is as accurate a record as OCLC is offering us for it. So I will go ahead and select the title, because as an intern, I get to kind of say that this is of religious studies value. And if I go here and see this next one, La Orazione di San Basilio Magno, so it sounds to me like it's in Italian and it's about Saint Basil the Great. So what I'm going to do is close some of these windows here, these tabs, I mean. And I'm going to go ahead and have a look at this and just try and see, am I qualified to be able to tell if this might be useful? Yeah, this is definitely about Basil the Great, Saint, Bishop of Caesarea. And if I open it here, I can even see the year here, the publishers. Yeah. So although this is in Italian, I do think it would be valuable, and I'm just trying to check if we have a good record with the metadata that matches this thing here, this actual document, this actual book here, as opposed to something else. So let's see. According to this, it says ebook 1889 is the year, and here is the OCLC record. I'm just going to check that the two things match, and I can go ahead and select this title and add it to our free to read collection as something that would be of use too. So you can see here that has a translator. The edition says 1889. Eslandi Firenze, that sounds right. Eslandi Firenze sounds about right. And now the thing is, I am in fact not very good at Roman numerals, to be honest. Apparently the year is 1889. I'm gonna go ahead and make a note of that. MDCCCLXX 89, 1980. It looks like 1989 to me from what I do know about Roman numerals. So this is a good record. This OCLC record, this WorldCat record here. It seems to match. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is select this title for our library. It is in Italian, but somehow I was able to figure out that it is relevant. So, and then these, I believe, are all in Latin. So before I get a start on that, let's see if there's anything else in English I can be sure to be adding. Well, here we go. Here's a book about St. Thomas Aquinas, even though I was looking for St. Basil. Um, there looks like there's another copy of this same book here. Apparently, maybe St. Basil is mentioned in it. So, okay, that's the only thing that is in English. So, going back to the other things, the St. Basil. Just to give you an idea, there's a little bit more investigation and more things to think about, and like, this is something that I like to do in between adding things to collections. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna leave off here because I think I've been talking long enough, but this is something that I like to do in between adding titles to collections and creating collections. And it involves a bit of troubleshooting of access and discoverability because you want to make sure that the metadata is proper. And I haven't really demonstrated a case where I've had to change the metadata, but it's done pretty easily. If you have to change the metadata, you go into the title and there is the option here to override the OCLC number. And if you can find a record that matches that book better than the one that is declared there, you just put the OCLC number of that record here, and you override it, and then you correct it. And sometimes you can even correct the date down here if you can see that there is on the frontispiece of the book a different date. So that's just a little flavor of one other thing that I like to do for the internship in a day as an intern at the Digital Theological Library. And stay tuned as I show you how I add things to another collection. The other collection is going to be from the University of Ghent in Belgium. We're also interested in open access works from there, and you will see that dealing with that repository is a little less straightforward and a little different than dealing with the North Carolina State one that I demonstrated before. So stay tuned.